Yeah.
I had already done this the week before. I luckily had spent my fair share of time in the area hiking along just to get out of the city, even if it was just for a moment. You'd be surprised at how much more you can take in when you hike alone and don't have any distractions. I knew this particular area well, almost like the back of my hand. Mike didn't, so I had a few ideas on where to lay a trap for him if he decided to come the next day and do some scouting. I knew he would be looking for good ambush areas, somewhere I wouldn't expect and where he would have an extreme tactical advantage. There was an area about 2 miles in from where the paved road turns into dirt, thick boulders around the road along with tons of wild trees and bushes. Monsoon season was just coming to an end, so the vegetation is nice and thick, providing lots of sight coverage. I was planning on parking my car right after this area in order to provide the illusion that that's where I would ambush him. However, there's a big overhanging plateau formation way in the distance. It had 3 perch areas that looked over this entire stretch of road for about 1.5 miles in each direction. This was my best chance I had, and I needed to take it. I arrived at around 11 p.m. and parked my car way off the dirt road and out of line of sight from people who would be driving on it. I packed up all my gear I would need for the night and started to trek up the area I chose to watch from. I only brought 2 of my guns. My 9mm just in case, it's always good to have a backup, and my baby that was a little hungry to do some hunting, the Barrett 50 cal. I finally tracked up the plateau and just got the rifle set up for a good shot of incoming traffic. It was around midnight at this point, and I figured I'd just relax with some Jack and some shitty easy cooked meals for a bit. I had no internet or phone service, so it was good old-fashioned books and a few comics to keep me entertained. I had other stuff back in the car, but I was content for the night. Around 2:30 to 3 a.m. I heard a car coming down the dirt road toward me. I was a little curious as no one is usually out here at this time of night. I figured it was a park ranger or some love-crazy kids that just wanted to be alone. Wasn't worried about either as I had hidden the car extremely well and didn't have any electronics or any other things that would alert people to looking up in my direction. I watched as the car got closer and closer to the area I was planning on leaving the car for Mike to see. The car, a blue Toyota RAV5, had rental stickers on the sides of the windows, which made me think it was some tourists enjoying the desert night. But then once I started thinking about it, someone who doesn't know the area, especially while traveling at night, wouldn't even leave the scenic roundabout, let alone come to some random off-trail in the middle of bumfucked Egypt. It dawned on me that Mike probably had to rent a car, as I, well, blew his up. Oops. I waited for a minute, and after being stopped at the area for a minute, someone got out of the car, and holy shit, it was Mike. He had a fucking big-ass bulletproof jacket on, along with some huge assault rifle. It looked like an AR-15, but way more decked out and more like something fucking Rambo would mow people in the rainforest down with. I waited for him to drop his guard and look around a bit, and then I took a shot. Missed by a bit. Holy shit, how dumb could I be? I didn't reset the scope after cleaning the gun. Fucking details, man. So I went to another perch point and reset the scope, and then I added a bit of other things into the equation like distance and angle, and everything checked out. Mike was behind a boulder that was blocking my view from where I had a first shot at him, but this new perch was just to the side of it. He slowly inched his way into my scope and lined up a second shot. Boom. Holy fuck, this gun sounds beautiful. The bullet drop was a bit more than I anticipated, so I hit him in his knee. The bullet blew his fucking leg completely off his body from the knee down. I shot at the gun 3 times to disable it and empty my clip. I made my way down to him and he was looking at me with a shocked look like, how the fuck did you hit my leg? I put a tourniquet on his leg, but of course, searched him for weapons. He still had that original 9mm with the suppressor on it he had first shot at me with. Memories, man. I then shot him up with an EPI pen I always kept in my first aid kit to keep him alive for a bit longer. A bit cruel, yes, but I didn't want to end it just yet. I had other things for him to see. I dragged him over to his car and put him in the front seat so I could watch him. I went over to him with the bottle of Jack and asked if he wanted a last drink. He sure took that fucking opportunity up, that's for damn sure. I loaded all of the propane tanks into the back along with both of the gasoline containers. We drove for about 45 minutes, him barely awake but still fully conscious and really enjoying the Jack. We got up a little ways on the highway to Mount Charleston and eventually got up to a good straightaway with a sharp turn at the end with nothing but a little guardrail in between the road and about a 1,300 foot drop. I found a good sized rock on the side of the road and started to pour the gas all over the inside of the vehicle. All Mike did was close his eyes and wait. When I was done and about to launch it, I went up to the door and asked him a simple question. You want it fast and quick, or long and horrible? He looked at me with a smile and held up the nearly empty Jack Daniels bottle. Fast, but let me finish this first. He chugged the rest of it and said something I'll never forget. I definitely don't want to die just yet, but you sure set up one hell of a fucking game for yourself. He knew I had put the hit on myself right after I left him that very first note in my apartment that said, "Tag, you're it." He looked up forward out of the windshield to the sky and said, "Do it. Make it quick and clean and light this fucking thing and get the fuck out of the area." Until the very end, he was a damn good sport about it. If the tables would have been turned, I don't think I would have been so nice about it. Boom. In one temple, out the other. I set the gas on fire in the back first and placed the car in drive. I then let it fall onto the gas pedal and the car took off. It strayed to the right a bit, but it was going pretty damn fast by the time it hit the edge. I was walking for about 5 or 6 minutes before the propane tanks exploded. They can handle a bit of heat, I guess. They went off one after another, and the last 4 or 5 of them all went off at once. I got off the highways and started walking the trail back to my area, and that's all how this should have ended, but I'm sorry to say that it hasn't. Mike and I met for the last time at Red Rock Canyon about 6 days ago, and ever since then some really weird shit has been going on. I really don't know for sure if they're all connected. It's obvious that some of these occurrences do, and the pieces that are fitting together are constantly leading back to one thing: the organization I originally hired. But my mind is trying to make everything that has happened to me from the past 6 days, all of them fit together. I fear I'll miss something if I don't make them fit. Something that would end up saving my life, possibly. In the end, I'm just mashing up all of my experiences and clues I've gathered in the past 6 days, trying to find some sort of picture of the game they're playing with me. All I know is ever since Mike and I finished our game of tag, my life has gotten turned completely upside down. Enemies are everywhere, and worse yet, I don't even know who they are, what they like, and what they want from me. I can't trust anybody except for people I knew before I started this game, and in a city with this many people, I don't have a whole lot of options. First off, for the past 6 days I've been having massive migraine headaches. It literally feels like there's an ice pick slamming onto different parts of my brain with each pulse of my heart. I got regular light headaches every so often like any other person does. They were nothing some Advil couldn't fix. These are different. They're happening every fucking day, multiple times a day, and nothing I can take can get rid of them. I have to wait for them to pass, which takes a few hours. I can barely stand when they happen, and light aggravates them. I even have my laptop screen on its lowest light setting to minimize this. Secondly, 3 days ago I was waiting at a light intersection in Henderson, a city connected to Las Vegas on the south side. The left turn light turned green, but the other lights for people that want to go through the intersection were still red, so I remained stopped, waiting patiently with no other cars in front of me. The first car turning left started through the intersection. Then out of nowhere, a car going at least 60 to 70 miles per hour barrels through and T-bones the car. The car that was T-boned while turning spun a few times but ended up on the other side of the intersection, finally stopping on the corner of the sidewalk, to the left from my position, while the other car that sped through the light barely made it through the intersection, coming to a grinding halt as its engines dropped and the front end completely caved in. Everyone slammed on their brakes and the intersection was pretty much wide open, so I hit the gas and drove through and parked my car in front of her with my right side wheels up on the curb. I jumped out of my car and ran to hers, praying she was okay, and attempted to open her driver's side door, but it was also caved in where the other car had impacted, so the door lock was busted to shit from the looks of it. I ran to the passenger side and unlocked the door through the broken window, seeing the unconscious woman strapped into what looked like a metal death box. I had an unbelievable sense of recognition come over me. I knew I had seen her before, but I have no idea where. Like walking past someone that you've seen chewing at your favorite grocery store, or recognizing someone that jogs around your block in the morning. Only this time, you're both standing in line to buy movie tickets. You recognize them and you know you've seen them around somewhere, but you don't exactly know where. I quickly pushed the thought out of my brain in order to focus. I tried getting her out of her seat, but I couldn't access the belt buckle latch attached to the seat as it was completely encased by the caved-in driver's side door. I searched my pockets frantically for my pocket knife and cut through the belt. As soon as that was done, I picked her up as carefully as I could and set her down on the curb just outside the passenger side of her car. Adrenaline is quite an amazing chemical when it fully kicks in and flows through your body. She felt like she only weighed 30 pounds when I picked her up. As I was laying her down on the sidewalk, I saw a little chunk of metal sticking out of her thigh through her tight jeans. It was protruding out about 3 inches, but I have no idea how far it extended into her thigh. I took off my belt. It's funny, I actually referred to it as my lucky belt ever since I got away while running from the cops drunk in college and because of all the other ridiculous situations I've gotten out of while wearing it. It's stretchy with no designated loop, so it can fit around anything as small as a stop sign post to something as big as the fattest contestant of the season premiere of The Biggest Loser. I sipped it under her leg and pulled it as tightly as I could, a couple inches above where the metal was sticking out. Right as I did that, she opened her eyes very slightly and looked at me. Then after a few seconds, she closed them as she blacked out again. I kept my fingers on her neck to feel her pulse, and it was there. Faint, but it was there. I lifted up her leg really quickly to see a round red stain as a pool of blood started gathering underneath her thigh, trapped there due to her skinny tight jeans. Every 30 seconds or so I checked in. Thankfully, it wasn't getting much bigger. Looking back, it seemed like time itself was going so slow as I got her out of the car and tended to her injuries. I completely blocked the world out around me. As soon as I knew she wasn't going to bleed out, I heard the faint sound of sirens in the distance. Reality snapped back as I looked around to survey the scene. Mostly, people were just standing around on the opposite side of the street from where I was, some on their phone, presumably to 911, and others just shocked at the accident they had just witnessed. I looked over to see 2 people pulling the man who ran the red light out through his window, his car about 2/3 the length it used to be. Even a bit of the front doors of the car were warped a bit, which explained why they couldn't get them open. It maybe took the paramedics 4 or 5 minutes to get to the scene, but it felt like an eternity. 2 ambulances came flying to our location. One went and parked by the other man's car and one parked in front of mine. I checked her pulse one more time and it was still there. Faint, and it damn sure seemed to be clinging to life, but nevertheless, it was there. As soon as he took her vitals and gave her a quick look over, he asked me for a quick summary of what had happened. I explained and asked if she was going to make it and be okay. To my relief, he said yes and explained she might not have made it if it wasn't thanks to my belt, and the fact that I had left the object in her leg. I learned as a young kid in Boy Scouts never to remove an object that was stuck in a person, as it can lead to even more blood loss, and then very quickly, death. And proper tourniquet placement on the arms and legs to prevent a person from bleeding out. I chuckled a bit inside. Who would have fucking imagined that I would ever put any of this stuff I learned from my first aid badge to use in the real world? He asked if I wanted my belt back and I told him no, and to attach a note to it that explained that it was her lucky belt now and that it saved her life. We laughed for a quick second as he agreed, and as I turned around, police officers were approaching me. I'm not too big of a fan of cops, but I figured I was not in any sort of trouble as I had just helped secure the victim of an accident. He asked me if I could give a statement as to what happened, and I agreed. He turned around and asked me to follow him to his car to get the paperwork, and I saw the other man sitting up on the stretcher the other EMTs pulled out. He was yelling and slurring his words and acting as any obliterated person would after they had just been in a bad accident. I kept looking at him and he seemed familiar as well. I didn't recognize him as well as I did the woman I'd helped, but I had definitely seen him before. I heard him shout in a drunken manner at the EMT. "My brakes didn't stop. The brake pedal didn't do nothing. I couldn't stop," he said, extremely drunk. When we continued to the cop car, I gave him my statement. As we were finishing up, another cop came up to the side of him chuckling a bit and said, "This guy's BAC was .21, according to the breathalyzer. We also found a half-empty beer can over on the passenger side door. He's saying something about his brakes not working, but he's so fucked up he probably was hitting the gas pedal instead." The officer taking my statement nodded, and the other cop walked off back to the scene as the tow trucks had just arrived. The officer who was taking my statement turned and put the pad and pen on the seat of the squad car. "We're done here," he said in a serious tone, and I turned to walk away. I took a few steps away and I heard him say, "Oh, by the way." "Yeah?" I asked. "I heard you saved that woman's life by slowing the bleeding down until we got here." I turned around and said, "I don't think I saved her by any means. I was just trying to give her as much time as she could get until the paramedics arrived." I was turned around and started walking away and heard him say in a quiet, deep voice, "Seems like you did the opposite for the other guy who flew off the mountain pass on the other side of Mount Charleston a few nights ago. Perfect place to go off, too. Must have been at least 1,000-foot plunge or more." I stopped, dead in my tracks. All the blood that was in my face fled, replaced with a substance that felt cooler than liquid nitrogen. Frozen there, and without turning back around to face him, "Excuse me?" I asked, my very soul not wanting to hear his answer because I knew I was completely fucked. "Oh, nothing. You saved one life and ended another. I think that God would call that even, don't you think?" he said, his voice getting more and more cheerful after each syllable left his mouth, like a proud hunter knowing his prey was cornered with no possible way to escape. Feeling like I was frozen in a block of ice, having nowhere to go, I replied, I can't really say. God hasn't said anything to me yet, but I'll let you know when he does." As I spoke, I literally felt like a dead man walking, like this man behind me was taking the very energy of my soul as he stared at me. He started laughing. "Well, who knows, you may get that chance sooner than you think," he said. And then his voice suddenly going back to the previous deep monotone darkness it was before. "But who am I to say that?" I heard him turn around and take a few steps into his cop car and shut the door behind him. I was just standing there frozen until I heard the car door shut, causing the regular world to return as I slowly walked back to my car. And after this occurred, my laptop I was using to catalog everything I've done so far, check my bank accounts, look at pretty much all my information on it that I needed to stay ahead, started acting up about a week ago. Randomly closing internet tabs, me being in the middle of writing an update on this, and my laptop would shut itself down. And the final straw was my command bar popping up on its own and writing out, "We are watching, we are everywhere," without me touching my computer. They now had complete control of it, and that it's just useless to me. So I had to get a new one and make sure it doesn't get hacked. Anyways guys, looking back at what I just typed, I pretty much wrote a whole fucking prologue to what happened after the game. I'll update if it continues on from here, but don't count on every day. Hey everyone, so sorry for the last story looking like the ramblings of a crazy person. My migraine at the time just kept getting worse and worse, and by the time I was done writing, I couldn't even proofread or even stare at my screen any longer. I was literally shaking with pain, about to just kill myself to get it over with. Don't worry, I'm not suicidal. Well, by suicidal I mean personally killing myself. I guess some would argue that what I did was suicide. In my opinion, it was more of a game, but hey, call me what you want, I honestly don't care. Anyways, I figure I'd leave one last quick update to let you guys know what's been going on, and it might just be the last day of my life. Let me explain. So I took my hard drive I had saved from my laptop I had gotten rid of to a buddy of mine who was a programmer to check for how the hell they hacked into my system. I wanted to keep it because I had some shit on it that had some sentimental value to me, and I didn't want to find all the songs and movies I'd downloaded all over again. Anyways, he transferred the things I still wanted over to my laptop and ran all the files through a program to check for abnormal files or viruses hidden in any of the transferred data. He didn't find any, so I was in the clear there. I didn't tell him what had happened in the past month. He just figured I was busy at work or whatever. He downloaded some security software on my new laptop and gave me a few tips on how to avoid my security from getting breached. I probably should have told him that it wasn't just some random guy hacking my system, but if I got into details it could possibly put him at risk, so I just thanked him and went on my way. As I was getting back to my hotel and going up to my room, I saw a man in a suit standing across the street, just staring at me. I went inside, freaking out, and checked out the window every couple minutes to see if he was still there. After a few peeks of him still looking right at me, he got on his phone and eventually left. Shortly after, I went to a hotel, taking U-turns and backtracking to make sure I wasn't followed. I checked in and went to my room to check it out. I took my bug detector and went around the room. Nothing came up, luckily. As I went outside to get my bags out of my bag, I felt like I was being watched again. I looked around thinking I was just being paranoid, and fucking again there was a different guy in a suit just watching me. Holy shit, how many guys do they have watching me this time? Why haven't they all just killed me already? Well, I'll find out soon enough. I went into my room and started thinking about everything that had happened since I killed Mike. I started thinking about the car crash I'd seen and the people I saw in it. After thinking for hours, the girl in the car that was T-boned. I did know her. She worked in a different branch for the company I used to work for. She didn't work in my building, and I didn't even know if she worked in the same city since my company was in several different states. But I was sure I've seen her in my office dropping papers off to my boss. Why her though? Was it a fluke? And then I thought about the cop afterwards. No one was around when I killed Mike. There was no report on the news about it.
Welcome to the King of Iron, Ling Xiaoyu. Get ready for the next battle. Round 2. Fight.
着。
Get ready for the next battle. Get ready for the next battle. Round one. Fight. KO. Round two. Fight. KO. Round three. Fight. KO. Round four. Fight. KO. You lose.
余裕しゃくしゃく。
Welcome to the King of Iron, Ling Xiaoyu. Get ready for the next battle.
Hello there, person watching. And me not landing these EWGFs is why I don't play Kazi anymore. I don't understand what that means.
Round one. Fight.
Woo! Damn! Oh, they left. Damn it! No, I'm paying the price! Oh, he got me. He got me. No! Damn, so much damage. Holy cow, you got me.
Round three. Fight.
Damn it. No!
Round four. Fight.
He got me!
Final round. Fight.
What? Come on. What? Wait, Rick. Is there a way to make it so it saves your videos? What? Gembu. Channel and videos. I see. Mature content, no. Block hyperlinks. Yes. Dun. We turn it on. Care about that, don't care about that. Settings tab. Settings tab, more settings. What? Okay, how do I... No. No. Collections, no. Do this. For past broadcasts. Okay, there it is. Found it. Hello, person who is currently in my chat. I am currently taking a small break, but let's get started with our little horror stories now, shall we?
Hey everyone, this is part 2 to the day I hired a hitman story. If you haven't watched it, none of this will make sense to you. I highly recommend
they left again.
It's a long video, but it's worth the time, I promise. Click the annotation on screen, or I'll have a link in the description. Let's begin. Hey everyone, I'm typing this out not for you guys, but mainly for me. I need to vent a bit, and there's not many people I can talk to about this. The organization I'm working for has gone through YouTube numerous times and granted me authorization to write this. It seems not many authorities prowl through YouTube, and when they do, it's on their own time. A lot of shit has been going on in my life lately, and at the end of the day, I believe I was able to turn it around and actually do some good for this evil fucking world that we live in. Anyways, let's just get to the story about how I was forced into this new line of work, how I was forced to become a hired gun. There are entities, both living and non-living, that have power and control like you couldn't even imagine. Even now, after seeing everything I've seen, it's hard for me to grasp. It's hard for me to believe. Those conspiracy theory nuts really aren't too far off, I've come to realize. Things are more connected behind the scenes than you could even imagine. These entities are completely invisible to the normal person until it lets its presence known to you, or you worm your way into its territory. Either of these scenarios end the same way. Once you stumble upon things of this magnitude, you end up joining, or you end up dead. Simple as that. These people are everywhere. Politicians, CEOs, lawyers, businessmen. They're able to see all, control anyone they want, and the scariest part, anything is obtainable. Anything. Again, I'm rambling.
Hey,
Let's
person
pick up where I
there.
left off last time.
Let me pause this real fast. Welcome to the chat. I'm just here. I just finished about 10 or so games with someone online. And we're taking a small break, so I thought I'd do some Tekken. Then I'm going to hit the lab, and then we're going to do some rematches later tonight. So, yeah, I really appreciate your time. I'm currently preparing for, and it doesn't look like it, but I'm preparing for a big tournament in Tokyo. I'm going to miss this, damn it. Ah! Oh, so close. But yeah, let me change the headphones. That way you don't have to hear this extra static going on here. Alright, give me 1 second, my man. Or girl, whatever you are. It's all good. Just talk. Give me 1 second. Sounds, playback. Okay. Properties, where's my... Okay, we should be back in. Alright, now that that's here, I'm gonna play some horror stories.
Shall we? I arrived at Sunset Park, about a 10-minute drive from downtown Vegas, around 6 p.m.
Relax.
I was walking around the area where these people wanted me to meet them until I saw a woman in a suit leaning against a tree.
Talk.
She had glasses on, but I could feel her staring at me, her gaze studying my movements and piercing my body.
Oh, I got a strike. I didn't even realize that. I was adjusting
I walked
my stuff.
up to her with my hands behind my back, my right hand inches away from my 9mm that was tucked in my pants under my shirt. As soon as I approached her, she said to me, "You have a 9mm tucked in your pants. I'd advise you not to pull it out."
No,
I was stunned.
This is all your fault.
She was very good at picking up visual cues from people. She smiled as my facial expression showed that she was correct. I continued walking toward her, trying not to show my fear that this may well be the end for me. A light breeze blew through the park as I approached. I smiled a bit and said, "Well, aren't you an intuitive little thing? Tell me, what's stopping me from pulling out my gun and blowing your fucking brains out?" I tried sounding like I had some sort of control over the situation, but that was the furthest thing from the truth, and she knew it.
Yep, she did.
I have a sniper trained on you right now. If you attempt to make a move with your gun, you'll have your head blown clean off your body in less than half a second. I pulled my arms from behind my body and folded them in front of me. "Good. You seem to have some brains after all," she said, smirking a bit. That smug fucking face reassuring me that I was in no position to do anything, like a dog's owner smiling as it obeys a command. "Enough of the bullshit. You called me. I came. Now what the fuck do you guys want?" She gave me a signal to follow her.
Ooh, that was a nice one. In the distance, I saw a park bench void of any human activity. Are you serious?
I followed her while lagging a bit behind, attempting to survey the situation a bit. It was no use, though. I was way out of my league, and that fact devastated me. I hate having no control of situations I'm involved in. We both sat down, facing each other on opposite sides of the bench. She took off her sunglasses. Beautiful green eyes shone to my view, wore out from the troubles of her past and obstacles in her future. "We have a proposal for you, mister."
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'll leave that out. "Call me Tyler," I said.
Yeah!
Okay, Tyler. Well, let me give you the short version. Okay. You poked the wrong bear. Furthermore, you killed one of our operatives.
I'm gonna go into the lab.
This wouldn't be a problem if you hadn't hired a fucking hit on yourself just for some amusement. Now we're down a man, and that's very serious in our line of work. We value each of our employees and the skill sets they possess. Now, I'll ask you one time. Rather, I'll tell you one time. You will join our organization for a limited amount of time to replace the operator you disposed of. That, or sometime in the next 12 hours, you will be disposed of. I started laughing, that smile returning to my face that I hadn't seen since the last time I saw Mike. I wasn't laughing because something was funny. It was one of those laughs where something is seriously fucking wrong and there's no other emotion to convey how fucked up the situation is. She glared at me like this was some kind of fucking joke, like my life was just a joke.
Let me turn that mature filter on.
Well, I don't have much of a choice now, do I? Smart man, she said. Follow me, details will be discussed with you further.
I don't even know.
We walked towards the parking lot where I saw a black Bentley with dark tinted windows pull up. It was brand new, not a scratch on it. Looking at the back of it, I see that it has CA exempt plates on it. As I got into the car, she put her hand up to her ear and said, "Stand down, he's cooperating. Return to Point Delta at 22 hours. She started getting in while looking at me. Could you please remove the 9mm from your pants, unchamber the round, and remove the magazine, please? You're not planning on taking it from me, are you? No, sir, it's just a precaution. I'll do it with mine if it'd make you feel better, she said. I don't really care. It seems you have no intentions on killing me, as you could have done so already, and why would you scuff a pretty car like this with my brain matter? She smirked again. You seem to have good intuition. You should fit right in. And so we drove away and headed out of town towards the state line, not knowing what was ahead of me, but too tired and worn out to even care. We arrived in LA about 4 hours later. Having no idea where I was, it was too late to turn back now. Shit, it was too late to turn back the moment I arrived at the park earlier that day. About 20 minutes after we arrived in LA, the woman handed me a folded up bandana, speaking for the first time since I got in the car. Put this on to cover your vision. We do this as a precaution to all new members to ensure the security of our black site. Fine, I said, while tying it behind my head. Am I ever going to know the location of this place? Yes, it's one of our central hubs that serves our needs for a lot of activities. Once we know you're dedicated and have the means to get a job done, we'll let you in on everything, she said. By the way, what's with the CA exempt plates on this thing? I said, while looking into total darkness as the blindfold covered my eyes. I guess I can tell you now. We are part of a larger organization contracted by the government. My heart fucking dropped. What the fuck was this lady on about? The government contracts fucking hitman agencies?
Jesus,
I heard her chuckle under her breath. I guess my face gave away my emotional state again. I see that you didn't expect that. Yes, we are a sub-branch of a larger organization that does military work inside the states for certain organizations in Washington and for major corporations that need others to do the dirty work for them. Like the CIA, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security, I said, eagerly waiting for her answer. Who contracts us is classified to you, and most of all, isn't your concern. Just know that we don't work directly for the government, we just receive funding and support from certain agencies. What the fuck are you talking about? You're a goddamn hitman agency. You can't possibly expect me to believe that you people are a paramilitary branch of the government.
Oh, it's over,
I said, my words coming out of my mouth faster than I could even think. She chuckled again. It's more complicated than we can comprehend at this moment. Our Hitman division is only an extremely small branch of what we do as a whole. The hits people request are given to our operators as a side job for those who request them. It's a way for certain employees to earn a chunk of extra cash on the side while at the same time obtaining skills that improve our other operations. My face was probably priceless at that moment, just the pure disbelief at what I was hearing. If I hadn't heard it from a credible source, I would think I was talking to a nut job. So, the government, or whoever the fuck pays the bills, allows you people to do this shit?
Damn right they do.
It's not that they approve us to do it, she said. It's more like they look the other way during these activities. After all, everything we do is looked down upon by most of the government. We scratch their back and they scratch ours. We provide a necessary service to them, and in return they ignore certain activities that give us extra funding as a group and for individual operators. As she ended her sentence, I heard the driver roll down his window. He said some obvious code words. Opening, I heard a voice say that sounded like it was coming from a speaker. I then heard a gate start to open, metal grinding as it slowly slid open. We're here. Keep your blindfold on until I direct you to take it off. We pulled forward and then I heard a large garage door start to open. We pulled forward once again and I heard it close behind me. Now things are going to get real. Now I get to see what my purpose will be and what my future will hold. I heard a door open and the woman get out of the car, followed by a man's voice saying, "So, this is him." "Yes, this is him," I heard her reply. A hand grabbed my arm and helped me out of the car. "You can take the blindfold off now, Tyler." Okay, thanks." I removed the bandana from my face, and what greeted me was a large warehouse, the likes of which I had never seen before.
So close.
Okay guys, that's about it for today. I'll continue tomorrow. I gotta get what I've written approved and then I'll upload it. Have a good day everyone. I had arrived at the warehouse around 5 p.m. or so. As I got out of the car, I was greeted with an amazing sight. On the outside of this warehouse seemed old and rusted from years of being exposed to the elements. Inside, however, was incredibly high-tech, and I could tell not a penny was skimped on purchasing all the latest technology. I was given a quick tour while the lady who I'd talked to earlier was giving me the rundown. Her words were going in one ear and coming out the other as I tried to study every last detail of this massive place. We got to one room and my interest was piqued, as it looked like the goddamn launch room at NASA. A full HD projector was at the front of the room, and behind it were rows and rows of fancy computers streaming with codes and different applications. Each station had a man or woman in a suit manning them. All of them had headsets on, seemingly finishing up the day's work. I started walking around as the lady who recruited me was in mid-sentence, cut off by my body language showing I was no longer interested in whatever the fuck she was talking about. I was walking around looking at the different monitors, looking at different applications on the various screens that made me think I was on a spaceship. I didn't understand any of it. That was until I got to one man's workstation. Let's call him Mark.
I dropped it.
Mark was on his headset clicking around on his multi-monitor setup when I saw something while peeking behind his shoulders on the far left monitor. It was a picture of a little blonde girl. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. She had bright blue eyes. She looked a lot like my little sister. It made me smile a little bit. I had to wonder why this picture was on his screen, however. He was on an application. It wasn't like he was on his background or anything. I approached closer and tapped on his shoulder. He turned around and looked up at me, seemingly intrigued with what I was inquiring about. "Can I help you?" he asked with an upward inflection in his voice. "Yes, you can. I just started here. What's with the picture of the little girl?" I asked confidently, as if I had just been hired to run the fucking place. He gave a quick glance to the woman who brought me here, seeing if it was okay to talk to me. A quick nod of her head and he continued.
Too slow.
"It's a picture of a little girl that went missing 2 weeks ago. The mother thinks she knows who has her, but unfortunately the police were no help," he said. "So we have a search and rescue squad in this place or something?" I asked quickly.
Too slow.
"No sir, she had a hit put out on the guy. It's her old boss, a high-ranking banker who she used to work for, apparently a really sick fuck. She sent us the picture in hopes that we might run into her at his place once we take care of the guy." Something happened inside of me right then. A kind of feeling that I can only describe as fate screaming in my face. I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to talk to this man, and I was supposed to ask my next question. "Are there any other operators on this case already?" "No, sir," he said. "It just came in earlier today. The woman had just gathered the funds in order for us to take care of it." I shot a quick glance over at my recruiter. For the story's sake, let's call her Anne. "I'm taking this job as my first. Any objections?" I said. As a matter of fact, nothing she could say could change my mind on this, even if I had to do it for free. She came over to the computer and asked me to give them a minute so they could talk. She came back up to me where I was waiting for a short time. "This job isn't the type of thing I was going to assign to you at first. It's a hit. You know that, right?" "I'm well aware," I said, my tone hard as stone. "Okay, as long as you know. By the way, how come you want this job so badly? I can see it in your eyes, like you knew that girl," she said. "She reminds me of my little sister," I said, my eyes becoming heavy and glassy. "And I can't stand motherfuckers that have anything to do with harming children. You only have one childhood, one time to be innocent and carefree. People who take that away from them deserve to die." slowly and painfully. I agree. What I'm getting at is even if this man had nothing to do with that little girl's disappearance, you still have to go through with it. You'll have to bear that on your shoulders, she said. She was surprisingly considerate. I realized that. Besides, he's a piece of shit banker. I want to hang his ass just for that. Probably a smug-ass motherfucker. By the way, if any high up the ladder bankers are watching this, no offense. You just happen to really fuck our country and pretty much the world economy, and I don't like your kind. She smiled, and I went back over to the guy's station, ready for the details of the job and ready to pop my hit cherry. As I sat down in an empty chair a few feet away from the man, a printer went off in front of me. It started spitting out information, maps, and schedules of my target.
Okay.
I started smiling again.
I gotta see something.
Contemplating my future and the fact that maybe I'd actually want a permanent job here. My thoughts broke when Mark walked in front of me and grabbed the papers. He returned to his desk, labeling some of the files and ordering them to make it more accessible for me. He grabbed a manila folder in one of those drawers and put the stack of papers in it. How that folder brought back memories of how I got into this whole mess. He handed it to me with a serious face before saying, "Good luck." I stood up and followed Anna's cue to follow her. We exited the room and started walking down a very long, white hallway.
So close.
She turned her head slightly to speak to me. "When do you want to do this job? Tomorrow would probably be best so you can get your head straight and focus." "Tonight," I shot out. "It's already 6:30, she said, stopping to see if I was serious. "You want to take care of this in the next few hours?" "Yes," I said. "I want this fucker now." I gave her a quick wink. My bloodlust for this man isn't going to quell until he's dead. She chuckled a bit. "Well, if you say so. It's not like it's your first time killing someone." Flashbacks hit me like a brick wall. Everything that had occurred in the past month or so came flooding into my brain like a summer monsoon. "You okay?" she asked, looking at me as I was lost in my own brain. "Yeah, I'm fine. You guys got an armory around this building?" She smiled.
Oh my god, it's so much harder
back to her face that I'd seen earlier returned for a moment. "Yes, I'll show you the way." "After you," I retorted. I had brought none of my weapons with me since I was pretty much swept away to LA without a second's notice. We arrived at a steel door, a man behind a clear bulletproof glass window eyeing me as we approached. "Hey Stan, can you let us in?" she said. "Sure thing, and who's the new kid?" he asked hesitantly. "Mike's replacement," she said quickly. A weird mix of hatred and amazement washed over his face. I stared into his eyes, knowing this man had known Mike. "Sorry," I muttered softly. No words had to be exchanged, I already knew. "Were you friends?" I asked quietly. "Drinking buddies, really. No one is friends around here. After all, we're not technically supposed to know each other." He went out after pounding half a bottle of Jack, just to let you know. His scowl turned into a slight smile. He would have wanted it that way, muttering to himself with a gleam of remembrance in his eyes. Suddenly, he pushed a button and the door slid quickly open, revealing a sight that struck me with pure awe. Rows and rows of guns, ammo, and high-tech special ops gear glimmering in the fluorescent lighting. "Take your pick," Anna said, smiling while looking at my face. I wish I could have seen my reaction, probably only rivaled by a little kid arriving with his parents for the first time to a candy store. I started walking down the aisles, admiring at the massive collection of big kid toys that were in stock. "We have a strict protocol when checking out guns and gadgets," she said. "I'll update you with everything after you get back from your job. For now, just pick out what you want and I'll handle the paperwork when you get back." "Sounds good to me," I said. A short summary of everything that I got. 2 handguns, 2 suppressors, night vision goggles, a box of ammo, 4 extra mags, a black backpack, bolt cutters, a burglary kit, rope, black gloves, a military grade knife,
there it is.
A military grade axe, 3 flash grenades, a medical kit with EPI pens, and a slick black suit that seemed to be tailored just for me. There were a few other odds and ends. I just don't feel like diving into my memory and trying to type all of the items out. I headed for the door again. "You're planning on having quite a night tonight, aren't you?" Anne said, quickly following behind me. "If I get my way, yes. Yes, I am." The last few words trailing off under my breath. A metal box opened up underneath the glass window on the inside of the armory. Inside of it was a clipboard with a handful of papers clamped down on it.
Timing is in the run.
"I'll take care of the boring stuff for now. Just sign here saying that you were the one who checked these items out." I signed quickly, eager to get this started.
What?
"Stan, I'll be bringing this back tomorrow morning when I get in. I gotta show the newbie the process," she said. Stan gave her a quick nod and the door opened up. I flew out of it before realizing I didn't have a car at the moment. I turned around to look at Anne, not noticing me while flipping through the paperwork attached to the clipboard. She looked up at me. "Yes?" "Car. I need a car," I said, stuttering a little bit. "Oh, yes, that had slipped my mind. Follow me again."
There we go.
She led me around a few corridors out into what seemed like the back of the warehouse. We went through a door into a large indoor garage filled with black cars and SUVs of all shapes and sizes. Take your pick, except for the ones that are parked inside the red boxes. Those are on reserve by some of the top officials. I nodded quickly before running around the lot like a spoiled teenage girl getting her first car from mommy and daddy. I walked up to a set of black Bentleys, both black from head to toe, each with a set of government plates. I pointed.
"Hey,
this
person
one,
joining
I said
the chat,
with a huge
or
grin
joining
on
my
my
Twitch.
face. And
Very
laughed.
nice to see.
"I see you have an eye for
There's a third
luxury,
person
huh?"
here.
"I
Yeah.
suppose," I
So
responded.
basically, I am
She
new.
went over to a large metal rack and looked up to the spot it was parked in. As I approached her, she
I'm new to
threw me the
Tekken. I come from
keys.
competitive Overwatch.
"Don't fucking scratch it," she barked at me as
What?
I ran back towards the car.
I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, I hollered back from across the lot. I opened the trunk
I'm
and
trying
put
to learn
everything
how
in
to
there,
play
ready
Tekken.
to get the night
Switching over
started.
to this.
As I headed for the garage door, I noticed Anne waving me to drive over to her. I rolled down the
Yeah, feel
window
free to
and
say
stopped
hello.
right
Feel free to
beside
chill.
her.
Just listen to some nice
"Here's the address
stories
to where you're going
while
to
I
meet
play.
me when you're
Very
all
relaxing.
done with this." She
And
handed
maybe later
me a
tonight
cell
I'll hop
phone with an
online.
address written down in
Haven't
the
decided
default notes app. "We'll be meeting you here 20 minutes after you call us to retrieve the car and take you back here to return the gear." I gave her a quick nod. As I was about to roll the window back up, she put a hand on it. "I don't have to remind you that we won't think twice about putting you 6 feet under if you happen to ditch us. We normally need to build up trust with new operators before sending them out. However, I have an inclination that you won't be going anywhere," she said, looking me dead in the eyes. "I know," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." She took her hand off the windowsill and the garage door started to open. I sped off, a setting sun illuminating a pink and purple sky greeting me as day turned into night. I parked at a local pizza joint to look over the notes.
Oh, hey!
I grabbed a slice to eat while reviewing everything in the file I was given. We'll call the
your
guy
name.
Ralph. Ralph was a high-ranking
Your name
banker
is
at a
written
major
in
bank in
What
downtown
Chinese
LA.
characters is that?
The type of guy who spent
I
5
can't read it.
years getting promotion after promotion
But,
over
hello there.
guys that had been with the company for 20 years just because he was born into a family with connections. The type of rich douchebag that acquires a sick and twisted taste of erotic things as soon as he secures a position of wealth
Ooh,
and
that's
power.
fast enough. Stop it.
The file said that he had made multiple advancements on the woman who took the hit on him, raping her one of the times. A complaint was filed on her behalf, only to be told by the higher-ups to shut her fucking mouth if she wanted to keep a banking job anywhere around the entire West Coast. A man with connections, indeed. It also said
that's
that
gonna
he had
suck.
mentioned something about
That's also
tasting her little girl as well. This made me sick to my fucking stomach, yet I was smiling. Smiling because this rich fuckface had no idea what was coming to him.
I cannot
The
run.
worst night of his life would be his last as well. No kids, and a young 20-something-year-old girlfriend who was on a trip to Hawaii at the moment while he was finishing up work before taking a vacation himself. After I had read enough and had a game plan, I started taking off.
It is hard to run
I
to the
noticed
left.
I had
just
only
realized
eaten
that.
half of my pizza. I was so excited and nervous that I didn't have much of an appetite. The sick things I was going to do to this perverted fuck. Just thinking about it makes me smile. One
So,
less sick
Tara-
fucking scumbag
Tara-
on earth to
Nos.
hurt people.
Okay,
I was
I'm looking
either
at the
going to make
chat.
him suffer just a bit
Do
if
you-
I
do
found
you
that
understand
threats
any
to the
English,
woman's
or-
daughter were
Just
empty
curious.
scare tactics.
What?
Or
I did not expect him to
make
parry
him
that.
feel the pain of 1,000 medieval executions if I found the evidence to the contrary. I set out around 8 or 9 p.m. to get started. I passed by the mansion community that he lived in, guards checking in guests before they could enter. Security
Oh, crap.
wasn't terrible, but it
Mispress.
would be easier and more beneficial to sneak in. I found a spot about a quarter mile away and parked the car.
Ooh.
I made my way, backpack in hand, to the back brick wall of the community. Shrouded by darkness, I hopped the wall and made my way to the man's house. The house was dark, vacant, it seemed, of any human activity. I used a bump
Damn it,
key
he
to
got
get
me.
into the garage door that led from the side of the house. No cars were in there, neither was one in the front. I checked the door leading into the house. It was unlocked. I slid right in and gave myself a tour of the place while
Alright,
making
now
myself
I'm gonna
at
move
home.
on to try to practice.
I tried to make it quick, making my way through while tipping over
Okay.
expensive
I
shit
wanna try
like
to practice
lamps
the Korean
and
backdash a
vases,
little bit.
because why the fuck not? The guy is a disgusting prick. I entered one room and saw something that caught my interest. It had a few teddy
think it
bears, and
was,
upon
like, back,
closer
back,
look,
back,
the
back,
dresser
back,
drawers
back, back.
contained children's clothing.
Back, down, back.
This
Back,
guy
down,
didn't
back.
have any kids and was definitely not the type to
hard.
have a niece or nephew stay the night. It was all just off. I could feel it.
Alright, let's start slow.
In the
Start slow.
closet, I found a tripod and an accompanying HD camera to go with it. It gave me the chills. Something was not right about this. Just as I closed the closet door, I heard a car pull up while headlights illuminated different sections of the house as he turned off the street and onto his driveway. It was go time. Time for this motherfucker to pay.
Yeah.
I
Kill
watched
him.
for a moment out of the second
Kill
story
the
balcony
broker.
as he stumbled out of his car to the front door. He was definitely drunk, which is good. Makes an easy target. I exited the bedroom and grabbed a signed baseball bat that was hanging in the hallway. I made my way down to the double front doors. Just as I hid out of sight in the corner, he put the keys in the lock. The door opened halfway and he staggered inside.
Oh my god,
He
why is
kicked
this
the
so
door
hard to
shut
do?
behind him and started walking towards the stairs. "Hi, Ralph," I said quickly while raising the baseball
back,
bat
down,
to my
back,
side.
Down, back, down, back.
His eyes
back, down,
widened like a deer in
Back,
the
back, down,
headlights, realizing
Back,
that
back,
someone
down,
was inside of his house
back,
who
down,
wasn't
back.
supposed to be there.
Back,
Before he could do anything, I swung
Back,
and knocked him straight on the side of his head, slightly above his temple. He hit the ground instantly, letting out a mix between a grunt and a whimper. He turned his head slightly, trying to get a good look at me. I pulled the rope out of my backpack and tied him up as tight as I could.
Oh, I think I almost
Those
had it
knot
there for a
tying
second.
lessons in Boy Scouts really came in handy now, didn't they? I got him into the guest bathroom downstairs and tied him up
Is
to
that
the
it?
sink. He was fading in and out of consciousness, but he was starting to come to. I put a gag in his mouth and duct taped it shut, then searched his pockets. He was looking at
shouldn't
me, his
be-
eyes not quite able to focus on me or what was going on as I leaned down and lifted up his chin. I looked him right in the eyes. "Hey Ralphie, buddy, how's it hanging?" The only thing I could hear was his muffled attempts to speak, probably to plead with me, telling me to take what I want and leave.
Yeah, that's
"Don't
what I
worry,
need to figure
buddy.
out how to do.
I'm not here to rob you. I'm here for something else," I said in a cheery, upbeat tone.
It's
"I'm
so
here
much easier on
for
keyboard.
her."
Like, why?
As I pulled out a picture of the little girl. His eyes widened, showing the realization of understanding what was going on, knowing how fucked he actually was. More muffled pleads followed. "You don't happen to have her, do you, buddy?" A shake of the head told me no, but I knew he was full of fucking shit. After all, he's a goddamn executive banker. See, here's the thing. I don't really believe you. I have a few sources that say you do have her.
Oh my god.
His eyes dropped to the tile floor below, refusing to look at me. I picked his chin up again and stared into his eyes. "Look, man, I'm going to level with you. This will go a lot quicker for you and me if you just tell me where she is." I ripped the duct tape out of his mouth for a quick second. "I don't have her," he said, the desperation gushing from his mouth. I hit him straight in the nose a few times and heard a break, the crunch slightly muffled by his cries of pain. "See? I don't believe you. Like I said, I know you have her. I guess I'm going to have to go look for her. You sit tight." I chuckled a bit. "Oh, who am I kidding? You're not going anywhere." My happy-go-lucky smile slowly destroying his soul.
Why does it do
the
forward?
situation
I don't
he
push
was
forward.
in seeping into him bit by bit. I put the duct tape on his mouth again and secured him even tighter to the sink, his hands and feet bound tightly as to make sure he couldn't escape. I searched all around the house to no avail. I even searched the attic and didn't find anything.
So how are you doing today?
I was checking out
Anyone
one of the
watching?
upstairs rooms in the back of the house again and looked out into the backyard. I saw a huge shed that was more of a guest house than a shed sitting on the opposite side of the pool. I went downstairs and opened the bathroom door
Which
once
is your
more.
rank?
"I'll be right back, buddy. Just gotta go check something out."
Oh.
Giving him a small wink as I shut the door again.
Do you really want to know my
I
rank?
went out to the backyard and walked towards the shed. An ominous feeling hit me as
Hold
I
on,
grabbed
before
the
I
door
tell
to
you,
open it.
before I tell you my rank,
I
I want you
opened
to
the door
guess.
to see a beautiful project car
want you to
sitting
guess my
inside.
rank.
It was a '69 Mustang GT Cobra, I believe. There was only one floor
I'll
with
tell you my rank
multiple
after.
rooms in it. One filled with gardening tools and supplies, and the other filled with mechanic tools to work on the car.
Ooh,
I
what's
searched
that one?
around and found nothing. I was about to give up when I saw something that caught my eye on the floor. A cardboard mat laying under the car,
Good on you.
presumably to keep oil stains from staining the pristine tiled floor. I removed it and got on my hands and knees to look under the car. Something caught my eye again. A little outline of what looked like an entrance to a lower level. I looked around for the keys to the car and found them sitting on a shelf next to a few other items. I got in the car and opened the
I'm
garage
good.
opening.
Can you hear my microphone,
Then I
by the
pulled
way?
forward to see what was underneath the car.
Just making sure.
As I
you
got
can
out
hear my
and looked
microphone,
back
right?
into the garage, my suspicions were confirmed. It was a small trap-door looking entrance to a lower level. The only thing identifying that it was there was a small outline where the door met the tile. I walked over and pried it open to find a staircase leading down to the dark pit below. I started walking down to see what this motherfucker was hiding down there. I hit the bottom of the stairs, feeling the whole time for the light switch or something.
Can you hear my
I
mic?
finally found one, lighting up the whole room and lighting up the most disturbing scene I'd ever witnessed. It was something straight out of a fucking horror movie. It looked like a dungeon. A few cages
It's
along with
registering.
both small
You
and
should be able to
large
hear me.
shackles. It was inside those cages that shook me to my very fucking core.
This is a dangerous game
The
right
little
now.
girl I had seen on the computer screen earlier that day was in one
rank
of
are you
them.
at now?
Her
Let's
once
see.
bright blue eyes now dim with fear and anguish.
11 down. What's 11
As she
down?
saw me, she scooted herself
Vanguard,
up into the
okay.
far corner of the small cage, afraid that I was someone else that was going to hurt her, or worse. As I stood there in utter shock, I saw movement to my left. I turned my head slightly to see another girl, a little brown-haired girl that looked like she was of Mexican or South American descent. My eyes started to water uncontrollably, and I'll
What is
admit it,
this?
I started crying. No human could do this, especially to little girls. Only
is this
fucking
movie?
monster or a beast could do this. Don't worry, I said, staring the blonde little girl in the eyes, talking with the quietest high-pitched voice I could muster up.
Cake spinner.
I'm not here to hurt you. I'm going to get you out of here. I looked around to find the keys, and to no avail, they weren't down here. Hold on, I'll be right back, okay? She gave me a quick little nod, not knowing whether she could trust me or not. I ran back in the house to grab the bolt cutters in my backpack. I grabbed them and passed by the bathroom.
I don't have sound at this moment.
I opened the door quickly to see Ralph struggling to get the rope
hear me.
untied, but failing miserably. His eyes
That
widened
explains
wider
it.
than they had ever been, I'm sure, as he saw me there holding the bolt cutters. Oh, don't worry, you motherfucker. I'm not using these on you quite yet. A quiet whimper escaped through the duct tape as I closed the door. I ran back to the shed, or garage, whatever the fuck it was, out back and flew down the stairs. As I entered the little girl's view, she crawled back into the corner of the cage. I'm assuming because she thought I was going to use the bolt cutters on her. That just wanted me to make that fucking monster inside die even slower. I approached the cage and started clipping the cage bars one by one. It looked like a makeshift enclosure, maybe 2 or 3 large dog kennels welded together. As soon as I could pry it open, I tossed the bolt cutters to the side and reached my hand in. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe now, I said, trying to smile and sound reassuring. She reluctantly grabbed my hand and I pulled her out, hugging her tightly, and I whispered in her ear that she is safe now, and that I was going to get her home to her parents. I set her down and knelt down to her level. I'm going to get your little friend out now too, okay? So please, stay tight until I get her out. She gave me a little nod that she understood, and I started working on the other little girl's cage. I looked around at the other few cages, knowing at one point in time they were used for other little kids, maybe even in their teens that were held here and never left. Alive, at least. I pried the other cage door open and grabbed the other girl's hand. I gave her a big hug and also told her everything was going to be okay. I set her down and I'll never forget what happened next. They hugged each other, tight, not wanting to let go. To each other, they were probably the only thing that made the situation a little bit brighter, able to talk to one another in the pitch black and pass the time. I touched each one of them on the shoulder and told them I was going to get them home now. They each grabbed one of my hands and I led them out of that hellhole. As much as I wanted to tear that man inside to fucking pieces, I needed to get these little girls to safety first. I called up Anne and gave her the lowdown. I asked her if she could come pick up the girls and take them to the police station. I called the front gate and acted like Ralph, letting them know that I was expecting a visitor. 20 minutes later, Anne arrived. Before putting them in the car, I knelt down again and said, "Okay, you guys, this nice lady's name is Anne and she's going to take you back to your parents. Now, be good and remember that the bad man that brought you here is gone forever. He can never get you again, okay? You guys are brave little girls, I want you to know that." They nodded, understanding that they were finally out of that place, their eyes finally gaining a bit of light knowing it was over. I gave them each a big hug and set them in the car. The little blonde mumbled something and I leaned in and asked her, "What was that?" With all the strength she had in her, she whispered, "Thank you," into my ear. That was it. I started fucking bawling. "You're welcome, sweetie." The other little girl slid over and gave me another hug. I nodded and said, "Now, you be good." Another few little nods and I shut the door.
And this
I
is what we're
approached the
listening
driver's
to.
window.
This
Anne
is
was
what it's all
looking at me
about.
and said,
Tekken and horror stories,
"You
man.
did a good thing, but what about you know who?
A Noctis.
Is he still in there?"
198 wins!
"Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
He's still in there. And he's about to be in fucking pieces in about 10 minutes. She nodded and said, "Okay, just call me when you're all finishing up and try not to leave too much of a mess for the cleaning crew, okay?" "Alright," I said. "Just get these little ones to the police station and say you found them wandering around."
Oh, his
or
hair
something.
changes too.
"I'll figure it out. Have fun."
Damn it.
I just nodded and
Why you
waved
gotta be
bye
like
to
that?
the girls as they drove away, seeing them wave back to me as they rounded the corner out of the neighborhood. I slowly
What the hell?
walked back inside the house. It is now around 1 in the morning or so. Ralph was still trying to make it out of the
feel-
ropes, his wrist bloodied with rope burn. I opened the door and grabbed my backpack that was laying on the ground. Come on, motherfucker, we're going to have some fun now. I slammed his head against the sink and then untied the ropes that were restraining him to the sink.
NA.
I let him
I'm
outside
living
the
in
house
Japan
and
at the
into the
moment.
garage. A look of
But yeah.
horror came over his face when he saw the trap door was open. Yeah, you motherfucker, I found them. They're gone now, and you're not ever going to bother them again. I shoved him down the staircase. He tumbled down like a rag doll. He was defeated, and he knew it. He knew that's the last time he was ever going to see the outside again. I used some of the chains to chain him into the middle of the floor and I went back up to close the hatch. More useless whimpering came out from where the duct tape was resting on his face. I ripped it off again and threw it to the side. I wanted to hear him scream and beg for mercy.
He's gonna
the
get me
mercy
here.
he never even thought twice about giving the countless people he held down here. Please, I was forced to do this. It wasn't my fault, I swear. He kept on and on. I grabbed his broken nose and twisted it sideways, the pain instantly transmitting to his brain. We're just getting started, my friend. Karma's a bitch. He slumped down, looking like a sorry-ass sack of potatoes. Please, God, he pleaded. Please let me live. I don't want to die. I popped a cap to one of those EPI pins and jammed it into his leg. While injecting it into him, I looked him into his eyes once more and said, I'm the only God with you right now. I'm warning you right now, shit is about to get real and very fucking graphic. I'm not sparing a single detail with what happened, what I did to that sick fuck. So if you're not very good with gore, I'd suggest turning back now. I took my 9mm and screwed a suppressor on it. I held up his right foot. Boom! 3 shots in between his ankle and his Achilles tendon. I did the same for his left foot. I then threaded my remaining rope through the holes and hung him from the piping on the ceiling.
To the blue ranks.
While he was hanging there upside down, I took the bolt cutters and severed the tendons on the back of his knees. His screams were music to my ears, each one retribution for a horrible act.
Jesus, I completely tuned out the story and I just came back to it.
I then pulled out my gun and popped 2 rounds into each one of his kneecaps.
Torturing the hell out of this guy.
One of his Achilles snapped under the weight, and with it came a cry of pain. Before the other one snapped, I used the bolt cutters to cut it halfway through, letting the rest snap under his own weight. I stripped him down to his boxers, him laying in a mess of his own blood and sorrow on the concrete floor. I stomped his balls until one of them felt like it burst. I took my other EPI pen and injected it into him. I wanted him to suffer through this. I wanted him to feel every last fucking nerve being severed in his body.
Why would you be
I picked
so
the bolt cutters up and laid him on his back. I put them under his boxers and positioned his dick in between the edges. He looked down at what I was doing for a quick moment and yelped out a quick no before I sliced his dick off. Instantly, he started bleeding even more. Finally, I put my gloves on and found his severed dick. I picked it up and forced his mouth open. I shoved it in there and taped it shut. He was going to eat his own fucking dick, just like I'm sure he's made other people
you know, I think I'm gonna change this now. It's getting a little too dark.
Drain from his eyes.
Too dark.
Lastly,
Jesus Christ, I was
back
not
up the
expecting it to
stairs
get
and
this
grabbed
far.
some fuel from the garage. I slowly poured it all over his body, getting it in all of his wounds. I packed up what I had left into my backpack and put it on. You brought this on yourself. I hope you fucking understand that in your last minute of life. Worthless fucking scum. I spit on him and then led a fat trail of gas to the beginning of the staircase. I set it ablaze and watched as the flames engulfed him, swallowing him whole.
Okay, that's not
He was
bad.
going to be taken from hell on earth to actual hell. As he wailed and screamed, I ascended the steps.
How about you?
I called
What region are
Anne
you
and
from?
told her it was done, and that I was on
I'm from
my
America,
way.
I'm living in Japan
And then
now.
I closed the hatch, hopped the wall, and left. All evidence was cleaned up by a disposal team within the next hour. I kind of feel bad for leaving such a mess.
Alright, who am I fighting?
Well, that's it for tonight, everyone.
Whew,
Some of you may think I'm a fucking psychopath who has real problems.
Yeah,
Others
I do.
may think my actions were justified.
First Dan, 0. What?
I think he had it coming.
He has all
deserved
goals
every last
here.
fucking
First
second
Dan,
of that
0
night.
wins.
I may see him in hell
What?
one day. Who knows?
How does
I
that
will
work?
have to pay for my sins one way or another.
Is that a glitch?
All I know is that karma's
How do you
a
have
bitch.
all gold
I was
wins?
just the person who
Your
happened
game
to
says
deliver
0
that
wins and
karma
you're in
in
first
this
stand.
instance. This was the most brutal case, but
I'm
it was my
super confused
first.
here.
One more sick motherfucker is off the planet.
Alright, this is
and
a
I say
promotion
good
match, so I'm gonna stop this for now.
Round 1.
Yeah, let's see what he got.
Fight.
Oh no! Damn it. What's going on? Oh. No! Ah! Holy shit, I got saved by the clock.
Fight.
Damn. What? How does he hit that sidestep?
KO.
He played with other characters, probably. Ah, that's probably why. Okay.
Fight.
That's not what I meant to do. What? Ah, he got it. Yeah, he definitely got it.
KO. Round 4.
Ah, I just realized he looks like the Joker. Damn it, I dropped it. I have no idea what's going on. Dang, that was terrifying. I like how there was another person in the chat who is just not talking. Like, I'm really curious to know, like, what are they thinking? Alright.
place some half-ass show-off should even think about stumbling into.
New challenger.
Some people like to think that the deep web is a joke. It's not. In no way is it a place some half-ass show-off should even think about stumbling into.
Yes, it is.
In fact, I would tell even the most seasoned of hackers with any fiber of a moral compass to stay the fuck away from that place.
Is this a promotion match?
Because it's a place that will scar you and leave you terrified to follow the
I'm
cyber
gonna keep the
footprints
music
left
on,
by
or
someone
keep the
else's
sound on.
shadow ever again.
20 wins, though.
I know this because I'm a hacker, or at least I used to be one. I had been using computers since I was 12 years old. I had always been fascinated with the idea of being a cyber crusader, determined to find the new uncharted territories of the internet. I'd gotten pretty good at utilizing bits of software here and there, and it even got to the point where the slow
I did not
crawl
expect
of
that to go that
dial-up
far.
internet didn't even affect me anymore. Especially when you knew what processes you wanted active and which ones you could afford to kill to increase the crawl rate of your PC. In other words, I had a pretty good idea of what I was doing. By the time I was 20 years old, I could both safely and confidently call myself an ace when it came to hacking. I could keep up with the best and had made a name for myself among many other netizens on the web. In fact, I was among the few thousands who had managed to come up with the formula to hack the Google search bar in order to delve deeper into the directories to get what we wanted. Call it our own personal attack for having bought the rights for YouTube and slapping content creators with copyright infringements left and right. The early years of YouTube back then were not pretty. I had my channel taken down several times because of Google's little purchase. But that's neither here nor there. This plays no bearing on the story. I'm simply giving you a little history lesson, especially for all the younger netizens out there. Anyone who was a hacker knew about the deep web. It pretty much had the same purpose as most would speculate it does today. Drugs, guns, illegal imports, you name it, and that place pretty much had it. The deep web was, and is, the gateway into what is known as the global black market. I had purchased a few imported goods during that time and had a decent amount of drugs. It was about halfway through the first semester at my school. Sophomore year of college was my time to be stoned almost constantly, so I was a regular customer on the digital black market. Most of my friends came to me for the hookup, and I could always cut them a pretty good deal based on my frequent interactions with sellers on the net. To access the deep web, you didn't have things like Tor browsers, not back then. To access the darker side of the web, you needed to know what you were doing. Ghost hacking, proxies, parent directories, backdoors, scramblers, dump sites. These are all terms hackers utilized years back and when Java was not as prevalent in browsers as they are today. Back in the day, it was often referred to as the dark net. I don't know when it transitioned into the deep web and I don't really care. I'm never going back. I had just gotten some new equipment for my computer. The CRT I had been using finally quit, and after ordering a new monitor and some more RAM, I was pretty set to go. My plan was to try and barter for a better sound card when I could afford it with the vendors I went to on the dark net. I was setting up to do a little bit of gaming when I noticed I had an alert from one of my net friends.
Oh, look at all those golds, though!
Interesting.
Damn.
A series of black boxes that, when opened, seemed to lead you down another web directory. It was like tunneling,
this guy's
but more
a Smurf.
Fast.
I have a feeling he's a Smurf.
Knowing my curious nature, he had passed the information on to me, knowing I would want to follow up on this information. I was one of the few vagrant hackers in my circle, an explorer, mindlessly taking one path and then another and opening up a door and seeing where it goes. Most times you would come across a treasure trove of information, or a dead end.
Damn.
He hadn't cut any corners when he
No, that's not what I wanted to do!
His start point, the different pathways he
Damn, I took so much damage.
He had reset his IP address per 30 to 45 seconds, what protocols he had used to cover up his trail, and the level of encryption that he had encountered with each box, and how long it had taken him to reach the next one. 7 boxes he had come across, and upon reaching the 7th is where he'd gotten stuck. Challenge accepted. I quickly glanced over the data, already booting up the ghost hacks and IP scramblers. I needed to have what was in front of me knocked out of the way, as well as being able to cover my own ass. With the new encryption I had made, I would be able to latch onto an existing IP address for 30 seconds before bouncing to another one, making it seem like I had disappeared. This was great in theory, but forced my movements to be slow when it came to being able to do things on my sad little Inspiron. In 10 short minutes, I was ready to go. Like he had shown me, I followed his pathways and activated my encryptions to keep myself safe, wandering from parent directory to parent directory. It didn't take long for me to run into the first black box. Just a basic encryption that took almost no time to break through. Inside was a directory with 4 different subdirectories. I knew that the second link was where my friend went, but my curiosity led me to pick the first one. In about 3 minutes, I realized it was a dead end, so I quickly backtracked and made my way to the main directory, deciding that I wouldn't deviate from his original path. In about half an hour, I ran through all 6 black boxes, coming across the 7th, and realized that the encryption on this particular box was very different. Every hacker, no matter how good, leaves a sliver of information behind. I have no idea how to fight that character. I just lost 2 in a row. You just have to know what to look for. I knew my friend had been here, and this is where he had gotten stuck. This was a unique lock, one that I knew would take a bit of time to break through the encryption. I guess it's just me alone again. It was a Thursday night. I'd finished up my work early for a change, and I wasn't called into work, so I had time to kill. Now this box was a tricky little shit. I had never run across so many tedious things to break through in my entire life. It was more annoying than an actual challenge. A tug here, a pull there, slipping and dipping and moving around all the different codes in an attempt to decipher just what all this information entailed. But I wasn't allowed the luxury of lingering, because the minute I got distracted to see and understand what exactly I was swimming through, the encryption would completely kick me out of the box, forcing me to start all over again. After another 45 minutes, I managed to break through, and I felt like I was sitting on top of the world, but the only problem was that I was in another directory again. Except this time, there was only one thing inside of it. It was a redirect hyperlink labeled WTTMH. I was too happy to know I'd broken through the damn encryption code blocking this pathway that I didn't even stop to think and wonder what those letters meant. Like a fucking pleb, I just clicked on the link and let it redirect me. My ghost was active, so I wasn't worried about being traced. It did its thing, redirecting me to another website. This site took a little bit longer to load. Possibly because my ghost was attempting to filter and tunnel through anything that would have pinged me on someone's radar. This was also an indication that I had entered through a back door. One that I really didn't have any business utilizing, but I did anyway. When messing around in the darknet, you only ever use the back entrance onto pages if you thought you were the shit and didn't think you'd get caught.
I was looking for that.
Or you were the site manager themselves. About 5 minutes later, the webpage finally loaded up. Soft, creepy carnival music played in the background, barely above the sound of a whisper. Even with headphones on, I had to really pay attention to take notice of it. Across the window, in big, bold letters, read,
his leg is longer than mine.
I was immediately intrigued. Being the huge Kurt Vonnegut fan that I am, I recognized the title for what it was. But for anyone who has read the compilation of short stories, I assumed I was about to walk into a place full of rebels, preaching on their soapboxes like they were Harrison Bergeron. I wished that had been the case. I wished it more than anything, now that I think back on it. A window popped up on the bottom right of the browser, a chat window and a greeting message. I'll never forget the way my heart almost shrank in on itself in response to that gray box. It read, "Welcome to the Monkey House, home of all the chills and thrills you can imagine and some even beyond your wildest dreams. Would you like a guided tour?" Despite my interest, I didn't want to linger around in this place. The host was most likely surveying the area and monitoring all traffic flows spilling onto the site. Hell, the site owner could very well be the one pinging that automated message to me right that second. "No thank you," I wrote. "If you insist, do you already know your way around the Monkey House then? I don't think I've seen you around here before." No, I was referred by a friend. I couldn't believe I just straight up lied like that, but I had panicked. Something told me that this wasn't some bot.
Getting to the blue ranks is
I was talking to a real person, and I already knew I was a lot further in the darknet than I normally wandered into. They could eat me alive if I gave them a single reason to get suspicious of me. Their response: "Oh, you mean for the event this evening? We had given guest vouchers to all of our VIP members so they could invite their friends to tonight's special event." Event?
Who could possibly
What the fuck? There was an event? I decided I would just play along so as not to give myself away. I had clearly come across a membership-only site, waltzing in through the back
What?
door like I owned the place. Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I don't know my way around and I don't see any guide
You're
links
way out
telling
of
me
my
where I
league.
need to go
Why am I
or
fighting
even where
you?
I can go. Well, you wouldn't be able to see any of that with a guest voucher anyway. The Monkey House is membership only, and the only way in is either through a voucher or an actual invitation. This explains why I didn't recognize your IP address. My heart dropped into my stomach. Oh shit, he could see my IP. Which meant that if I didn't turn off my piggyback code, they would see my IP change right before their eyes. Panicking, I quickly pulled up my command prompt window and stopped my ghost from scrambling my IP and latching onto another person's as they passed within my latch zone. I stared at my now static IP address, listing that I was from Turkey. I see. Well, the event will be starting soon. Just follow this link when you're ready. Chatting is free, but the picture quality will be reduced to SD resolution since you're just a guest. HD is for members only. I understand. Basic etiquette applies. You will receive one warning and then afterwards you will be banned. You are free to leave before the event has concluded, but your IP will be permanently blocked from regaining entry unless you are able to get a personal invitation to return back to the Monkey House. Your IP has been logged for future reference so that we may extend the invitation to you in the future. We will not be held responsible for any physical, emotional, or psychological trauma that you may incur due to attending the event. Do you understand the rules? I was so fucked. Yes, I understand. Excellent. Well, as previously stated, just click on that link that I provided and it will take you directly to where the event is being taken place. Thank you for coming and enjoy the show. The window disappeared off my screen and all I could do was stare at the website. The dark carnival music continuing to play softly in the background. A ticker flashed across the top of my screen announcing that the event
That's your strategy,
in just a few short minutes. I suspected that I was still being monitored, so I clicked on a link and it redirected me to another page, where a graphic of a stage in velvet red
so she gets you in the corner and spams the same thing.
Ambient sounds that you would normally hear in a theater. The hushed whisperings of the audience, shuffling of programs, and even a person coughing every so often could be heard. I was impressed. They'd certainly gone all out for this thing, whatever it was. When it got to about 10 minutes till the launch, another window popped up on my screen. This time larger than the first, and different screen names began to pop up inside as people came into the room. It was clearly a group chat window, the one that would allow all of us to talk to each other while the show began. Some people immediately passed off greetings, as though they were being reunited with old buddies for the game and knocking back a beer. I hadn't chosen a screen name yet, remaining as the default Anonymous 10235 or whatever the fucking number was at the end of it. A soft piano sound rang out and we watched the animated curtains part, and behind it was a video screen, more than likely connected to some live feed. The camera was off and the transmission was offline as stated in the top right corner of the window. People's excitement was clear in the chat and they all discussed what the event would be about. It must have been an understood rule not to talk in detail about what had been previously showcased in another session, as no one dared to drop hints or blatantly speak about what they had seen before. This was crazy. I was scared before I had even really did anything. Nothing was happening and I felt extremely on edge. That should have been my first sign that I needed to get the hell out of there. But I still hadn't said anything. Someone took note that I hadn't either. Hey, you think Anon went AFK? I went wide-eyed at the screen. Don't know. Yo, Anon, where you at? Say something, creepin' ass motherfucker. A chill ran down my back, slow and unsettling before I let my fingers fly across the keys. The first was to change my screen name. Waki Blaster. It was a desperate attempt to combine two aliases I'd previously been known for into one thing. My mind switched back into hacker mode and I cleared my throat some. still mentally bracing myself for what was about to happen. I'll say something when I've got something to say, which won't be much, seeing as how the show's getting ready to start. A few oohs and oh snap in response. I wasn't about to get an ego over some smart-ass comment, not when I was in unknown territory like this. In hindsight, I should have just left. I should have just said fuck this place and dipped out of there. But I was too afraid of giving myself away, especially now that I had bothered to open my stupid mouth. A hailstorm of messages flooded the chat, mostly people counting down the seconds as we hit the 1 minute mark. A time ticker appeared over the video window mounted on the stage when it hit 30 seconds.
You're getting a promotion.
They went from white to pink and then a shade of red, growing darker as the numbers decreased slowly to 1. 0 was completely blood red and then disappeared from the screen as static appeared in the video frame. The show was about to begin. A person with a mask appeared on the screen. The mask, a stark porcelain white with a pair of painted blue eyes and a black twisted smirk spreading across the lower portion of it. Their wild, matted hair stuck out around the edges of the mask, the rest hidden by a silk top hat. He was dressed to the nines. A deep red and black three-piece suit and half cape draped over
literally all
his
legs.
shoulders.
Okay.
He held a long black cane with a silver skull atop the handle as the decorative piece. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. For all returning members, it is so very good to see you again. As for all the newcomers, I welcome you to the Monkey House. I'm your host, Hans Twilight, the ringleader of this humble little carnival of mine. I couldn't help but laugh a little, feeling some of my anxiety wash away. What the fuck was I watching? I had been so worried about a sideshow freak like this. Jovial music played in the background of the video and I leaned back in my chair, silently fussing at myself for having gotten so worked up over nothing.
Sidestepping,
we have
man.
a very special treat in store for all of you this evening. Are you ready for this little show of ours to begin? The chat room was soon flooded with messages confirming that they were, in fact, ready. Hans appeared to be looking off to the right where the window was and he let out a chuckle. Rolling the cane between both of his leather-gloved hands, he leaned towards the camera a bit more and tilted his head to the side. Very well, let the show begin! He stepped away from the screen, giving out a wide, flourishing gesture with his cane as he pointed the tip to an area behind him. It was too dark to see anything until an overhead light came on, illuminating a man strapped to a table who was wearing an elephant mask. He struggled against the leather straps binding him just as a buzzsaw roared to life at the space between his legs by his ankles. There was applause being heard in the video, something I had assumed and hoped was just an audio track that was playing in response. The chat was going crazy with excitement as my heart sank into the pit of my stomach, the realization of what was happening hitting me. I immediately covered my mouth with my hands. Oh my god. Starting out the night, we have Ringo, ladies and gentlemen. You all casted your votes last week and we held a little competition to see who this week's winning executioner would be. Trixie Mir 571, you are this week's winner and get to choose how each of our 3 attractions get to die. Your entry, Death by Table Saw, is what helped you win the competition, so here it is. I watched as that very screen name began to type out her gleeful screams and everyone else congratulated her. All except me. Did no one care about the muffled screams of the man strapped to the fucking table saw? What the fuck is wrong with these people? I was sitting there, literally watching as Trixie typed more stuff into the chat window. I wanted to tell myself that this wasn't real.
No!
This couldn't be real. But as Trixie typed out that she wanted the man to be slowly inched forward towards the saw, it became horrifically clear that this was in fact real. 2 men unstrapped his restraints and the elephant man immediately began fighting against them. Sadly, the other guys were bigger and stronger than him, each grasping for his respective wrists and ankles. His screams began to elevate as his legs were spread and arms held straight up above him. The sound of blades cutting into human flesh is no different than the sound of a butcher carving into a hunk of meat. The hum of the buzzsaw escalated as soon as it made contact, and the spray of blood that followed made me turn my head and cover my mouth. Elephant Man's screams were now a high-pitched squeal, and had I not been so afraid of vomiting, I would have used both of my hands to cover my ears.
Okay, we're done with that for today. I've heard enough of it. Where all the opponents go? I just realized I have a spin button. That's a beautiful artwork. Oh no! Okay. Oh god, okay, okay. I gotta play good. Damn. Come on, I can do this. Nope. I'm getting demoted.
Round 2. Fight.
On. Whoa. Come on, I don't want to be demoted at this low rank. So many kicks. Not what I was trying to do, but I'll take it. Damn it. That'll teach you. Okay, never mind. He wants revenge. Ah! Demoted. I can't believe it.
I can't believe I won.
A revenge match, why not?
Get ready for the next battle.
Freaking demoted, man.
I gotta focus.
Round 1. Fight.
What the hell? Why does that not work?
KO. Round 2. Fight. KO.
Oh, why couldn't I have done this during my demotion match against this person?
Fight.
Interesting. Why, man? I need to clip that. I literally gotta clip that. Like those two matches. Can I only do 60 seconds? Damn it. No, I can't. I'm actually probably gonna call it there, to be honest. Been good. Good stuff, but all good things must come to an end. See you later, everyone. Thanks for watching.